All right, what is quacking, everybody? This is Yum Quacks, where I talk about games and I talk about stuff because I like games and I like stuff. But what I don't like is the current state of Pokemon and my issues with the Pokemon franchise. Pokemon is the world's highest selling franchise. It is so amazing. Ever since the mainline games, since Blue and Green in Japan, these games have been so successful merchandise wise, anime wise, card game wise. You know, it's had game spin-offs. You got Pokemon Cafe, you got the Pokemon like line 'em up game, you got Pokemon Go, you got Legends Arceus, you know, game like the game is so popular, people have been making like battle simulators. You got Pokemon Showdown because that's how big this franchise is. And like I feel like the spin-offs these days are such more refreshing than the mainline games. How are your spin-offs more refreshing than your mainline games? Because their mainline games are just repetitive. That's how. Like, they have the most successful franchise. Anybody, you go anywhere in the world, you show someone the yellow rat, they're like, that's Pikachu. I show my mom Pikachu. She hasn't heard about Pikachu in years. I'd show her a picture of Pikachu. She'd be like, oh, that's Pikachu. You could show it to like a 70-year-old lady who knits. You could show Pikachu to an Amish person and they'd be like, that's Pikachu, right? Amish people know who Pikachu is. That's how big Pokemon is. Pokemon is such a fantastic franchise. I grew up with it. I remember playing Pokemon Red, Pokemon Fire Red, Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal. I remember playing all these games growing up, and they were great. They were fascinating. They were awesome. It was just an expansive world of just you exploring. And to be fair, it is relatable to someone who's a child because you're playing as a child. You're a 10-year-old who gets permission to leave your house and explore and become the Pokemon Master. The basic gist of the mainline formula games is you pick from 3 starters: fire, water, grass. This has not changed for the 25 years of this franchise's conception. Your goal is to get all 8 badges. You run around the entire area and get 8 badges. And then you go fight the Pokemon League. And while you're doing all this, there's some annoying ass evil team who's like, wah, we're evil. You know, honestly, like all the evil teams could just be replaced with Waluigi and Wario just doing some weird stuff. And like the games would still be the same. So that's the games. It's just like, oh, we're evil. We want world domination. And then they get thwarted by a 10-year-old for some reason. Don't know how that happens. But you're just, you know, this cool 10-year-old. And to be fair, it's cool. It's whatever. It made sense when I was a child. But now I can see why people relate to something like Legends Arceus. I think you're still young in Legends Arceus, but it's just like, I can see why people can enjoy the newer games on multiple levels because one, Legends Arceus is just a different way to play Pokemon and it's fantastic. There's people who don't like Pokemon who like Legends Arceus. Like my friend, not a huge fan of normal Pokemon games. Legend Arceus absolutely adores the game. And also the fact that your character does seem to be a little bit older and stuff like that. It does come across that way, especially with the character models and stuff. So it's like, oh, I'm this cool new person who like time traveled or whatever, something like that. That's the story. I haven't played the franchise though. It looks great, looks fun. Don't feel like playing it though because I don't need another game to play on top of the Splatoon competitive and my other games in my free time. But you know, I'll get around to it one day. But besides that, you know, definitely like other spin-offs I've played have felt more refreshing even in the most recent years. So the formula is just very basic formula. And to be fair, people do sometimes don't like change. Like it's the same reason why you still have people who buy the same FIFA games, the same Call of Duty games every single year because they like the formula. They're just like, well, it's simple. I don't need to, you know, you don't need to learn too much. With the new Mario games or like any new games that Nintendo does put out, you always got to learn something new. Like with Mario Wonders, if you go from like the new Super Mario Bros. Games to Mario Wonder, there's still like the similar like power-ups and stuff like that. There's new power-ups in the game, but now you gotta learn the whole badge system. You gotta figure out what badge you want to play with, how you want to play the game. So like it's definitely like a new system, and that can be like off-putting to some people. So I get not wanting to change the series from Pokemon's perspective, because these games print money. They, again, it is the #1 franchise in the world. You just print money. It's a money printing machine. They put out Pokemon, boom. They could literally probably make Pikachu farting into the game like that. They could make Pokemon Pikachu farts, and that would print them money. Like, it's insane. So they definitely need to switch up the formula, because to be fair, as a longtime fan and talking to other longtime fans, we want something new. We need, the game franchise needs to change in some way, because as fans, it's just getting tiring. And it's not like they don't have things to work with. The lore of these games are so deep, and it's not like they don't also have somewhat of a compelling plot points, but like their plots become very bare bones. You look at Gen 5, which could arguably be the most compelling story out of all of them, but like it's not a bar that's super high. Gen 5 is just like you're fighting against elite PETA basically. And it's just like N is like kind of a compelling character, because like he's like a character, he's like a Trump supporter. He's been lied to, but he still believes the lies and he's trying to hold on for dear life. But then finally at the end of the game, he breaks free of the Trump lies and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought the election was rigged. So, that's like, it's just compelling in that way. Like Gen 5 has like a lot of different moving aspects to it, and it's good. And not that the other games still don't have something to them. Like Gen 3, both enemy teams are trying for world domination, and then you roll up and with your little map sack and your sippy juice, and you're like, I'm Pokemon Master and I'm 10, and you shut that down. You're like, no, you can't flood the world, or no, you can't make mountains. Rayquaza, send these people to the gulag. Like, you do that, and there's like some compelling there, like you're saving the world from ending, but like, it feels a little bit weak. Feels like there should be a little bit more stakes to it, especially because the whole time you're just walking around, the enemy teams always feel like an afterthought. They're just like, oh, well, they're causing issue in this town. Well, I stopped them. Hey, gym leader, I'm here to do the thing I want to do. Like, every time I run into enemy teams, especially in like the newer games, I'm just like, oh my God, dude, I just want to get some badges, man. I'm just trying to go play online. Like, I'm just trying to play online. I'm trying to mess people up. Like, that's all I'm trying to do. I just want to do that. That's it. The evil teams just feel like a incredible inconvenience to everything when I'm just trying to play the game. They just feel like an afterthought, and it's whatever. Like, they're just, we're evil. It's like, cool. Like, in Pokemon 1, like, Team Rocket has a good, compelling backstory. Like, they're thugs. They're gangsters. They got scientists. They steal Pokemons. They do horrible things. Show that to me. Show that to me, please. And it's just like, in the newer games, the teams are worse. The teams are worse. In Gen 7, they're like, we're just edgy. Like, that's it. That the evil team's just edgy. And, the other antagonist is just like a MILF who hates her kids and she's a bad mother. Like, that's Gen 7. And you're just like, oh, I just moved here. Let's go. Gonna go be the master or whatever. And then, like, Gen 8 is just like a group of simps. It's a group of simps. That's it. That's all Team Yellow is simps. And then in Scarlet and Violet, the team is just kids who got bullied and became the thing they despise the most. That's it. And like, overall, the storylines in Pokemon are not very compelling. Like, I can just sit here and just break down details over and over again about how not compelling they are. The only thing that was compelling in the new Pokemon games to me was Arven and going through his struggles and like what he's doing. That's it. The gym challenge felt like a normal gym challenge, and it felt great. I'm gonna be honest, doing the gym stuff in the new games felt great because I was not hindered in the slightest. I was like, oh man, I just feel like I'm doing my thing. I'm going through. That's it. And then it was just like, oh, these bully kids are really annoying. I should go take care of them. Like, that's how the new games felt. So separating those plot points felt nice to a degree, but they're still very bare bones and basic. They're not anything crazy. And it's basic, just like the earlier games were just like, we're here to take over the world. The newer games are just like, we're kids who hate things and we're edgy. And an argument I used to bring up is like, oh, well, Pokemon's meant for competitive. Like, They don't care about the in-depth story. They just can't care about like, oh, we want people to like play comp. And like that argument does fall apart these days. Like people just want to play with their Pokemon. They want to do cute things. They want to battle with them, do different stuff. Like in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, one of the biggest endgame things to play, like post content wise or just things to do in general, was the Pokemon contest. We have not gotten Pokemon contests back ever, and that was so fun. You could dress up your Pokemon, they could do different things. It was so cool. That was so unique. And like they could do that for a new game. Same thing with the Battle Frontier and all those post-game content. Those are gone. Those don't come back in the game. Now it's just like you play the main story game with its bare bones story and that's it. Go play online or just stop playing the game. Like, you don't really play just Pokemon casually these days, unless you're shiny hunting. But shiny hunting just becomes so abysmal. It's so boring, and it's not even that good anymore because they raised the shiny odds. So your shiny Pokemon's not even rare, and now there's just, you know, if you are shiny hunting, you'll shiny hunt in previous games and do, like, you know, manipulation tactics and stuff like that to just guarantee you get a shiny Pokemon. So it's just like shiny Pokemon hunting is kind of like whatever at this point. It's, you know, it's cool, I guess, but it's just like, it gets very boring after a while. You think someone with limited time or, you know, who just wants to play the game, they're going to sit there and just restart over and over again? No, they're not. They're not going to do that. Like, it's pointless to do that. So the only things to do in modern Pokemon for casual players who just want to play with their cute Pokemon is nothing. Once they go through the main game, that's it. They're done. They're not going to keep playing the game. They're not going to go online and play competitive. They're not going to go up against Sweat Lords who EV and IV min-max their Pokemon with perfect held items, perfect natures, and who have like setups with Helping Hand and, you know, maybe like some weird gimmick with eject button or something like that. They don't care about that. They're going to get stomped on. They don't want to play competitively. Not everyone's competitive. And that's where just modern Pokemon is just stale. It is just a stale thing that needs to just, you know, be completely revitalized. Give us a story. Let us sink our teeth into it and give us content to keep coming back to over and over again to play with. Give us like a Pokemon ranch in our mainline games. Like, Pokemon is so much more. Like, it has so much more to offer. It has in-depth lore, Pokemon entries. There's so much more they could do with Pokemon. And it's insane that they don't. It's literally criminal at this point that they do not give us something. And again, it's the same reason why, you know, spin-offs feel more refreshing. And I know some people like don't like modern Pokemon, like their designs and stuff like that, but that's like subjective. There's Pokemon that I think are cool that people don't like. The design is just subjective. Some Pokemon are ugly, some Pokemon are cute. Like, people have new favorites all the time. And that's just very subjective. I don't think the designs really matter too much. I think it's more about like how the games are playing, how the lore is, and like what there is to do. And again, like I said, it's why spin-offs feel so refreshing. You got games like Pokemon Ranger, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, where you play as a Pokemon. You are the Pokemon. And that's so cool. Like, currently, right now, I've played Scarlet and Violet. I played a little bit of competitive online. Normally, I like making my own teams. I normally like, I have the time. I'm fortunate enough to have the time and the money to own these previous games. I put in the time to, you know, min-max my Pokemon, do whatever, get the shit I need, and, you know, I'll go online. But with the newest game, because it's just the same thing, and it's so whatever to me, I just have been renting teams. I just go online with rental teams and call it a day. I didn't even make it to the end of the first season. I just played until I got Ultra Ball and then I got bored. Like, that's how bad it is. Like, I love competing in things, but like, it was just too stale. Like, I just wasn't feeling it. And I think Scarlet and Violet still brought the most to the table, but like, it's just still the same bare bones thing. Like, the open world thing is nice, but it's just like, these days you have to have an open world game, otherwise people don't really care too much if you're gonna do something that does have like an expansive thing. Like, Pokemon definitely would feel very limiting if there was no exploration to it because of how the world design is. So it's just like, they did open worlds and added a new gimmick, and like, that's it. Like, that's really not enough to like warrant me sinking hours and hours into the Pokemon games Like, I need more. Like, I would like to be casual at times with the games. I would like to just be like, oh, I'm just going to load up the game and play. Like, that's it. I would like that. And definitely one of the biggest issues is Pokemon has not aged with its audience. It hasn't aged at all. It's still the same thing. It's still trying to cater to kids and stuff. And that's fine. It can cater to kids. But if you're going to cater to kids, still cater to your audience as well. Like, know your audience. All of us grew up. I'm not a child anymore. I don't get the same kick as like, oh, I relate to the person. Like, I don't feel like I'm putting myself in the game anymore. Because I'm not 10. I'm not a 10-year-old person anymore. I'm an adult with a job. I pay taxes. Like, I have things to do. I go on vacations. I don't get summer breaks off from school anymore. I don't have time for that. I got bills. So it's just like, I need the games to age with me. Hit me with some maturity. I can go watch Game of Thrones and stuff like that. I can handle these more mature topics in the game, and the game has lore to back these things. Like, we can have something deeper. You can make it rated T for teen. It doesn't have to be E for everybody. Or you can still make games E for everybody, but like, you know, have very subtle, deep things inside of them that can still cater to people. And one of the perfect games that I feel like Pokemon hits is Pokemon Colosseum. Pokemon Colosseum, you play as someone who used to steal Pokemon. You used to steal Pokemon. You're an ex-thug. And then you steal the Snag Machine from the people that you used to like kind of run with. And then you just go around, and now there's an organization. It's not an evil team. It's like an organization of people with money, and they're like doing stuff. They don't like really like, I wouldn't really consider them like a traditional team. It's like an organization. They close off the door to Pokemon's hearts and turn them into evil shadow Pokemon that attack people. There is literally a scene in Pokemon Colosseum where you get attacked. The first time you run into one, you rescue a girl who was literally kidnapped. She is kidnapped. She's in a bag. You see her squirming in the bag. You save her. She's like, oh my god, that's a shadow Pokemon. And it attacks you. Like, that's insane. And like, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the president of this organization, this is spoilers by the way, the game is like 15 years old. If you don't have a GameCube emulator or a GameCube play this game, that's on you. I'm sorry, whatever. It's been 15 years. Go watch a Let's Play or something. But I'm pretty sure the president is also imbued with darkness energy. I think he like closed off his heart too or something like that. That is a compelling story. Like, I'm a thug, and like, you kind of see the repercussions of something that you've kind of contributed to throughout the game. And it's amazing. It's cool. And not only that, lore-wise, the gameplay-wise, all battles are double battles. You play in double battles. So that adds more strategy, and it makes the game harder by default. So now you're like, oh, I gotta use these Pokemon. And one thing that does make the game artificially harder, I would say, is you only can steal shadow Pokemon. There's no wild Pokemon in the game. You only get shadow Pokemon. And I think that makes the game harder because your selection of Pokemon is very limited, and it's not really the greatest when going up against certain teams. But also, team composition wise of enemies is insane. It is so random and different. You have to be on your toes for different teams. So enemy trainers have different compositions. You're limited Pokemon. It's a double battle style. It is insane. And it has fantastic post game. It has the 100 trainer battle that you can play through at any time during the game. It's just a gauntlet of endless trainers. You got to beat 100 of them, and as you go through, it keeps getting harder and harder and harder. And that is such a cool mechanic that hasn't been added to any other Pokemon games either. And to also purify shadow Pokemon, because you got to purify them, you go through, you purify shadow Pokemon by using them. You have to keep using them, and they can go into hyper mode, and they have a unique attack called Shadow Rush that only they get, but when you purify them, it goes away. So it's like a good gimmick to just kind of like keep the Pokemon like formula really fresh, and it's nice and unique. So Pokemon Colosseum would be something that I would deem as like should be the future of mainline games. I'd love to see a remake of this game. I really would. I highly doubt they're going to do it, especially with the themings of this game. But like, as the older audience, they could just really lay into something like this with post game, we could have a very compelling story. So picture this, right? This is a game. Okay, picture this. You're like, like a young adult. You're like maybe freshly graduated from high school. You're trying to think about colleges. It's like your last, summer before you go off to like college or something. Or like you're working a job that you just like don't really like or something like that. You're just kind of like flustered and you're just kind of dealing with the effects of like, like a young adult life or something like that. And then out of nowhere, a mob walks in, like a gangsters walk in to your town, just start tearing things up. They break into your home and they either injure or kill one of your relatives or something. And then you come to find out your dad's alive or whatever. You come to find out, you and your dad, you're talking or whatever. You come to find out he used to be a part of this like mob organization. Or like he was an opposing gang against them. And like since they like defaced your home or whatever, like it's a revenge story now. You're like, oh man, like let's say they paralyze your dad from the waist down. He's stuck in a wheelchair. They like mess him up, but you come in, swoop in, save the day or whatever, barely. And like you're injured, maybe your mom or sister, someone's like dead or injured. Your dad's like paralyzed from the waist down. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna get these guys now. So now you like start making your way through the mob world. You take some of your dad's old Pokemon or whatever that he had. You get to pick like 2 and every battle is gonna be a double battle. And you just start making your way through the mob world. You meet up with one of your dad's old friends and you start working through and making connections with like other people, and you start meeting like new characters, colorful characters and stuff like that. And to get stronger, they have like underground, Coliseum fights or something like that, something Pokemon Coliseum style. So they got like, these Pokemon rings underground where like, you can gamble on who's going to win or whatever. And you just go through these fights. And then you also have like, different mainline quests where you start hitting this mob that like messed up you and your family. So you just go through, you start hitting up this mob. You like kind of, tear down their regime at the very end. And like, that's like the main story, you just like, you get better, you make friends, and then you just go, bam, I'm gonna go in, tear down your whole organization. And then the post game, would be something, different. So it's just like, you complete the revenge story for your dad. You close the chapter on your dad's life. Very heartwarming thing, you're sitting like, at your mom's grave, or you're just like sitting at a tree or whatever, with your dad in his wheelchair or whatever, looking out, and your dad's like, you really shut a chapter on my life, and you give him closure. And then the post game, you go do the gym challenge. You're like, you know what? I've had like friends go do this or whatever, people be successful. You go do the gym challenge. You go talk to scientists. So now you get to kind of like pick what you're doing, or maybe you integrate these things into the game as well more properly, perhaps, if you want people to have access to them earlier. But like post game wise, after you finish that main story, it's just like, oh hey, I want to go help like the professors of my region, study Pokemon, or I want to go do the gym challenge. Or maybe like there's recreational mandated stuff. Bring us back Pokemon contests, Battle Frontier with gimmicks where you can only use certain Pokemon. Stuff like that would be insane. That would be a fantastic Pokemon game, in my opinion. That'd be great. Obviously new Pokemon, older Pokemon from different regions, give Pokemons a glow up. And to be fair, what I just said would definitely be not a mainline game. That'd be a spin-off game, and to be fair, that game would never exist because that is just too heavy of a topic. But that would be like the mainline game I want to see, or at least a mainline game where something simple would be like they switch up the battle mechanics. If we're going for something simple, they switch up the battle mechanics to double battles, because competitive is played in double battles, so it would help maybe ease players into that situation a little bit more. And, probably get more people on like the more competitive side, or like more, understanding of competitive side, make it easier to watch like worlds and stuff like that. And, maybe it's like, you're fed up with, your life situation. Your mom's kind of struggling, but you know, you got a Pokemon. Why don't I just, you got a couple Pokemon? I'm gonna go do the gym challenge and, you know, try, you know, scrounge my way up from rags to riches. And maybe it's like a huge thing in this region or whatever, where it's just like, oh, you know, the poor kid, the underdog, they all expect like, you know, this one snobby, annoying person to win or whatever, something like that. And then you just go through the gym challenge and you do that. And it's more focused on you doing the gym challenge with your rival, who is just constantly being annoying, trying to stop you at every aspect he can, blocking off your pathways, you know, just hindering you in just so many different ways, something like that, you know, just like a rival, like a straight up just evil, you know, douche who is like stopping you from completing the gym challenge or whatever, something like that. I think that'd be probably something that could be a mainline game, maybe not, but that's what I want, because oh my god, like Pokemon games are just, they're repetitive, they're redundant. It sucks to want more from these games when you know you're not. And there's always like, you know, we can always sit here and outcry, but it's just like, as the #1 franchise in the world, you have the power, the development tools to give us something we want. You have everything at your disposal to give us these amazing, well-crafted Pokemon adventures. And that's where you see stuff like the rise of Palworld, because like Palworld hits you in that monster capturing scenario with like a strong fantasy. Say what you want about Palworld, Pokemon ripoff, you whatever, like all that stuff. The point is that it's giving people something that they can sink their teeth into. It's different, it's new. You got your Pokemon battlers, you can do stuff with your base, you can kill them. Like, it's a more mature theme on a monster capturing system. And I think that's the important thing that Pokemon needs to invest in to keep their franchise at the top and bring in newer audiences or bring back older people who have left. Because I still have friends and people who are like, I don't play Pokemon because it sucks. I spent $60 just to be disappointed and let down. But anyways, those are my thoughts. That's my solution. Let me know how you feel about Pokemon. Tell me how you feel in the comments below. By the time this video is up, there should be 4 other videos. Go watch those videos. Go subscribe to my channel as well. I would really appreciate it if you watch the videos and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.